Welcome back. We're discussing the new U.S. military strategy for Afghanistan, just announced by President Obama, and asking how it will shape the future of that country and the involvement of Western powers in its affairs. With us to examine the core issues is the Secretary General of Nato, Anders Fogh Rasmussen, who took up the position in August following almost 8 years as Prime Minister of Denmark. Mr. Secretary General, you actually were talking just before the break about the commitment by President Karzai to strengthen governance there and to root out corruption. Let me ask about the confidence you have in President Karzai, considering how the recent elections went. I mean, there's a general sense of more divisions among Afghan people.
Well, I take my point of departure in the inauguration speech delivered by President Karzai, a speech in which he committed himself strongly to a strengthened fight against corruption and drug trade. And I think he understands that it is essential for the future of Afghanistan that the Afghan people can really trust their own government. I also feel confident that the international conference, which will take place by the end of January, will constitute a framework for a renewal of the contract between the international community and the Afghan government. The international community will reconfirm its commitment to Afghanistan, and in exchange the Afghan government will reconfirm its commitment to improved governance.
But of course the difference between an inauguration speech and his track record are quite wide, and I wonder what incentives there are, whether coercion or pressure, to make sure he sticks by those promises.
Well, I do believe that President Karzai realizes how essential the support from the international community is. And of course we have to convey a very clear message to the Afghan government. We will stay committed, but in exchange we expect good governance from the Afghan government, because it's essential not only for the support from the Afghan people, but also in our endeavors to maintain a broad public support in troop contributing countries.
So we had an email that came in from a viewer through our Facebook page. His name is, her name is Pashtiana Koche, who says, "We need a strong and strict government ruled by Taliban. NATO and US Army are guarding the warlords, corrupt ministers, corrupt NGOs, and corrupt foreign nationals. That is the only purpose they serve." How will you win over people, and there seems to be quite a few, that have that kind of opinion?
Of course, it is a matter of concern if this is a widespread perception. And this is also the reason why we have to insist on improved governance. We are first and foremost in Afghanistan to defend ourselves against terrorism. But we have to realize that it's also essential for maintaining a broad public and political support of our presence in Afghanistan, that people do not perceive the Afghan government corrupt and inefficient. And we are ready to assist the Afghan government in the development of better capacity and improved governance. And I feel confident that President Karzai understands the importance of this.
Now, President Obama mentioned the Taliban only a couple of times in his speech and talked what seemed to be more about national security of the United States. To what extent does that send a message that NATO and the allies have been dragged into a mess that's been made by America, and NATO is expected to basically cough up the resources now to deal with America's problem?
It's not only Americans' problem. It's not only the United States war. This is about security for all of us. If we left Afghanistan behind, if we allowed terrorism to get rooted once again in Afghanistan, then terrorists could easily spread from Afghanistan through Central Asia and further, not to speak about the risk of destabilizing neighboring Pakistan, a nuclear power, which would be a very dangerous situation, not only in the region, but for the world as such. So this is not just an American challenge, an American problem. We are all in this, and I think all allies understand that.
Now, it's interesting, it was not long ago the Afghan defense minister said that the US surge in Iraq had simply forced extremists into to flee from there and go to Afghanistan, and there's a fear that many foreign fighters will, started to show up there. Same thing will happen with Afghanistan, and I wonder to what degree Pakistan has been engaged to avoid basically a spillover of those who flee Afghanistan in the surge ending up in Pakistan.
Obviously, there is no solution to the problems in Afghanistan without engaging Pakistan. We commend the Pakistani government and the Pakistani military for their fight against terrorists in the border regions, and we stand ready to assist Pakistan if they so wish. And we have to look upon the region as a whole, and this is also part of our new strategy.
One thing is generally been discussed is that the US has been very unilateral in a lot of its actions, using the drones in Pakistan, for example, and a lot of its missions within Afghanistan itself. What sense is there now that with the US and President Obama calling on the allies for more support with the surge, that there will be more collaboration and cooperation? Senator McCain in the Senate hearings himself said there's no unified strategy with the allies. I wonder what effort there might be to create better collaboration.
Actually, it is a unified strategy. We have been through a very intense phase of consultation among allies, and today allies and partners have issued supportive statements in response to President Obama's speech. So this is really an alliance mission, and we should keep it that way.
What about the comments that have come from much of the top brass, the top leadership in the military in America, General Petraeus, for example, saying that Afghanistan was a downward spiral? What sense is there that the US top brass are on board with this fully? I
see a clear joint effort among all allies, United States, of course, as the big troop contributor. Other allies will step up to the plate. According to the latest figures, at least 20 allies and partners will contribute additional troops to Afghanistan, and I expect more to come in the coming weeks.
Well, Mr. Secretary General, a quick final email, if I may, that came from Sweden, from Farid, who wrote in saying, do you think NATO can achieve success in a country that has defeated Alexander the Great, Great Britain and Soviet Russia? Can NATO become successful like in Kosovo and other missions so far? Or is your plan just to eliminate the Taliban and their alliances?
We will prevail. A lot is at stake, not only for the Afghan people, but for the international community. Our aim is to hand over responsibility to the Afghans themselves, and this is the way ahead. We need a stronger Afghan ownership. Therefore, we will train and educate Afghan soldiers and Afghan police. To build that bridge, we need more international troops in the short run, but in the long run, our goal is, of course, to let the Afghans run their own country themselves. We stand ready to assist as long as it is necessary. We will stay committed until we have finished our job.
Mr. Secretary General, thank you very much for your time. It was good to have you on the show.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being with us. Al Jazeera will be covering this story extensively throughout the day. Don't forget you can get further news and analysis by going to our website, english.aljazeera.net. Watch out for our correspondents' blogs from the ground on the latest developments. On the next show, we look at the challenges currently facing Saudi Arabia, including the crisis with Yemen's Houthi rebels and how that may affect the kingdom. Be sure to tune in for that. From me and the team, we'll see you next time.